The stars above Jupiter looked the same as they always had, cold, distant, indifferent. Commander Elias Rourke stood alone on the observation deck of the Vengeance, eyes locked on a slowly spinning hollow projection of Earth, the way it looked before it burned. Lush continents. Rolling clouds. Oceans deep and blue. A memory now. Not a planet. Timer's ticking, came a voice behind him. Lieutenant Cale, younger, sharper, still clinging to hope like a child with a fraying blanket. Elias didn't turn. Leave it running. Cale hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. Tactical wants confirmation. Ashen Fong is ready to move on your word. Elias finally looked away from the projection. His reflection in the glass, deep lines, gray stubble, haunted eyes, was the only face more worn than the Earth he'd lost. We're not ready, he muttered. You planned this strike for 17 years. Planning isn't the same as being ready. Cale lowered his voice. Sir, we survived. We built this fleet from scrap and sorrow. If not now, when? Elias took a long breath. The air aboard Vengeance smelled faintly of metal and recycled humidity. Not like the pine forests of Oregon or the salt wind of Karachi's coast. Those memories hurt more than the scars across his ribs. Mission briefing in 10, he said. Get the senior officers in the war room. We move tonight. The war room was dim-lit, screens glowing blue across rusted steel walls. The entire Terran Resistance fleet, a patchwork of stealth cruisers, repurposed mining ships, and black site constructs, was gathered in holographic display. Elias stood at the center. Silence reigned. He tapped the center of the table. A red sigil appeared, a living Zarn dreadnought, bloodthirster, orbiting a minor slave world in the Vardek sector. This is our target, Elias said. Arch-Admiral Zyrek's personal flagship. Whispers erupted across the table. One officer paled. Another grinned. He's alive? Captain Sato asked. I thought he vanished after the purge. No, Elias replied. He didn't vanish. He grew fat on victory. While we ran. While Earth burned. Cale added. Recon confirms he's overseeing extraction operations from the slave pens. No fleet escort beyond local patrols. Elias zoomed in on the display. The bloodthirster pulsed with alien organ metal, its hull lined with feeding tubes and psychic siphons. He thinks we're gone. He thinks we're still prey. Isn't this suicidal? Dr. Riven asked. Her voice calm, analytical. We've spent decades hiding. Exposing the fleet was never the plan. Elias interrupted. This is a surgical strike. We hit him fast. We leave a message. Sato frowned. A message? Elias leaned forward. That we're not extinct. That the galaxy made a mistake. The room fell quiet. Later, in the armory, Elias checked his gear in silence. Black armor, matte finish. No insignia. No flag. Earth had no flag now, just ashes. Cale entered, tossing him a plasma cell. You really think killing Zyrek changes anything? No, Elias said. But it starts something. Cale sat on a bench, elbows on knees. You ever think we should have just kept hiding? Lived out our days in peace? Built new colonies somewhere quiet? Elias holstered his sidearm. I think about the kids in Bunker 17, choking on dust. About mothers buried in vacuum because we had no more suits. About Earth screaming while the Concorde watched. His voice dropped. I think peace is a luxury predators never gave us. Cale nodded slowly. Then let's be the thing they never expected. Elias visited one last room before launch, the memorial chamber. It was dark, quiet. A single column in the center, glowing with tens of thousands of names, flickering like candlelight. No graves. No markers. Just data carved in photons. He found the name, Amira Rourke. His wife. Botanist. Died during the first orbital bombardment over New Delhi. Nothing left to bury. His fingers hovered near the name. Never touching. Just close. They'll know, he whispered. They'll all know. Earth was never silent. The launch was silent, unseen. A single drop pod, cloaked in an electromagnetic shroud, fired from vengeance like a bullet into the void. Inside, 6 soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder, breathing quietly, armored like shadows. Elias closed his eyes. The hum of the pod thrummed in his bones. Somewhere out there, Zyrek sat in his throne, surrounded by slaves and trophies, feeding on the myth of victory. He would learn. And the galaxy would tremble. The drop pod screamed silently through space, its hull glowing faintly as it breached the gravity well of the Vardex system. No alarms, no broadcasts, just a heartbeat hum inside and a starless void outside. Elias Rourke sat with his rifle across his lap, armored fingers resting on the trigger guard. Around him, 5 operatives sat in absolute stillness. No chatter. No fear. Just breath and purpose. ETA 90 seconds. Kale's voice crackled over their private channel. Bloodthirsters in high orbit. Slave world below. No escorts. Elias responded. Maintain radio silence after insertion. You'll hear from me when the job's done. He cut the channel. Private Voss, the youngest of the team, glanced sideways. You really think the old lizard's on board? He wouldn't trust anyone else to oversee feeding operations, Elias said. He treats pain like a feast. He'll be there. The pod shuddered. They breached the outer shell of the Bloodthirster, a monstrous ship grown from engineered alloy and biosinew, pulsing like a sleeping beast. The pod slammed into a soft tissue corridor, embedding itself in living metal. Elias stood. Masks on. Their helmets sealed with a hiss. Oxygen filters kicked in. The hatch blew. They stepped into hell. The interior of the Bloodthirster writhed around them. The floor squelched underfoot. The walls pulsed, pink and wet. Veins throbbed beneath translucent membranes, carrying some foul bioluminescent fluid. The air smelled like copper and rotting fruit. Every time I see one of these ships, I remember why I hate them, muttered Sergeant Lena, eyes sweeping the corridor. Keep it tight, Elias ordered. Down the spinal shaft, toward the neural core. That's where he'll be. The squad moved fast, rifles up. Organic corridors branched like arteries. They avoided the main channels, crawling through slime-coated ducts and bypassing sensor nodes disguised as eyes in the walls. At one point, they passed a room filled with humming, twitching lifeforms, hundreds of captive aliens with wires sunk deep into their skulls. Their eyes were blank. Their mouths moved in silent screams. Psychic energy siphoned from their minds powered the ship's engines. Private Voss paused, eyes wide. They're alive. Elias didn't stop. Not for long. Move. They reached the central elevator shaft, a vertical tunnel laced with muscle strands that contracted rhythmically. No mechanical lifts, Elias noted. Organic elevator. We ride it. They stepped onto the pulsing platform. With a spasm, the shaft convulsed and launched them upward, wet air rushing past. Seconds later, they landed inside the ship's upper core. This was different. The throne chamber. Massive. Gothic. Bones of dead species embedded in the walls. The floor was dark obsidian, and above them, a ceiling of living glass showed the planet below, its atmosphere burning slowly from atmospheric leaching. At the far end, seated on a throne of sinew and iron, was Archadmiral Zyrek. 10 feet tall. Scaled armor fused into flesh. A single red eye gleaming like a dying sun. Around him stood his honor guard, Zarn enforcers armed with psionic glaives, motionless like statues. Zyrek raised a claw. You enter my heart and think I do not feel it? His voice echoed, layered, guttural. I remember your scent, human. You escaped Earth's funeral. Now you crawl back to your grave. Elias stepped forward. You made one mistake. Oh? You left some of us alive. Zyrek laughed. A thick, rattling sound. You think this is revenge? A drop of blood against an ocean? We're not here to win a war. Elias lifted a small device. We're here to light a signal fire. He threw the device. It latched to the Nero throne. Zyrex's eye widened. Elias shouted, "Go loud!" Gunfire tore the silence. The human squad fanned out, unleashing rail slugs and EMP bursts. The Zarn guards reacted instantly, blades humming to life. One struck Voss across the chest, armor held barely. Lena returned fire, blowing the alien's head apart. Elias sprinted toward the throne, dodging a psychic blast that melted a chunk of wall behind him. Zyrex stood, roaring, claws extending. The detonator on the throne beeped. "Do you know what this ship's made of?" Elias yelled. "It feels pain." He triggered the device. A surge of electricity burst through the ship's spine. The walls spasmed. Screams echoed, not from the crew, but the ship itself. Blood-like fluid spilled from the ceiling. Systems blinked and failed. Lights dimmed. Zyrek howled in rage. He charged. Elias met him head-on. Their bodies collided with the force of freight trains. Claws raked armor. Fists slammed into bone. Elias jammed his knife into the alien's neck, but Zyrek barely flinched. The Admiral grabbed him and hurled him into a wall. Elias hit hard, gasping. Zyrek stomped forward. "You forget your place." Elias coughed, blood in his mouth. "No. I'm taking it back." Behind him, Lena fired a magnet charge into Zyrek's back. The blast tore through his spine, dropping him to one knee. Elias leapt, slamming his fist into Zyrek's faceplate. It cracked. Zyrek roared, and vanished in a sudden blur of light, pulled away by emergency teleport. "Coward!" Alarms screamed in alien tongues. The ship convulsed as failsafes kicked in. Kale's voice crackled through Elias's earpiece. "The fleet's detected your spark." "Job done?" "Not yet," Elias replied, panting. "But he's running." "That's enough." "Extraction point?" "Venting chamber, lower spine." "ETA 5 minutes." "Copy." "Reinforcements inbound." The human team limped through the dying ship. Flames burned along the walls. Panels oozed black smoke. Doors melted. Creatures howled inside distant chambers. Zyrek had escaped. But the message was delivered. The bloodthirster had bled. The prey had struck back. And the hunt was only beginning. The shuttle's docking clamps locked with a hard snap, jolting Elias back into the familiar hum of the Vengeance. The air tasted cleaner here, filtered metal and ionized coolant instead of the rot that clung to the Zarn dreadnought. His armor was cracked, half melted on one side, and streaked with alien fluids that hissed as they dried. The hatch slid open. Kale stood waiting, helmet under his arm. "You look awful," Kale said. Elias stepped out, rolling his bruised shoulders. "Zyrek got a hit in." Kale walked beside him. "But you tagged his throne. Every sensor within 10 sectors picked up that surge. He'll know you did it." "He already knows," Elias said. "He ran before I could finish him." Kale slowed. "He escaped?" "He used the teleport graft." "Won't matter. He felt pain today." Kale didn't answer. "Not yet." The war room felt heavier than before, darker, the screens dimmer, the air thicker. Officers stood in tense clusters. No chatter. No congratulations. Only unease. Elias stepped into the center. "Report." Sato cleared her throat. "We detected a burst transmission 30 seconds after your pod breached the Bloodthirster's hull. Encryption was human, and Concord." Elias froze. "Who sent it?" Dr. Riven stepped forward, hands clasped behind her back. Usually composed, her posture was unusually stiff. "We traced it to Hyperdrive Bay 3. That bay was sealed," Elias said. Riven lowered her eyes. "It should have been." Sato gestured to the main table. A hollow map of the fleet appeared. Red markers flashed across half the ships. "Hyperdrives are compromised," Sato said. "The sabotage is precise. Whoever did it knew the internal schematics." Elias's jaw tightened. "How long to repair?" "Hours for one ship," Sato replied. Days for the fleet. We don't have days. Kale's wrist screen buzzed. He glanced at it, and blanched. That wrong? Elias asked. Kale swallowed. Long-range scanners caught a spike. Concorde vectors inbound, hundreds of signatures, closing fast. A quiet broke over the room, cold and absolute. Sato whispered. He's coming. Elias turned sharply. Riven. You're the only one with clearance to Bay 3 this cycle. Riven didn't move. Didn't blink. Kale stepped closer. Doctor, we need an explanation. She exhaled, slow, steady. Humanity has limits. We cling to pain. We cling to ruin. When Earth fell, I believed we'd learn to adapt. Instead, we built weapons and hid in the dark. Elias stared. Say what you did. Riven finally looked up. Her eyes glimmered with something between sorrow and certainty. I sent our location to the Concorde. The room erupted, officers shouting, guns half raised. Elias raised his hand. Silence. Why? He asked. Riven stepped toward him, voice unwavering. Humans can't defeat the Concorde. We never could. Joining them is the only way our species survives. By kneeling? Elias said quietly. By evolving, she corrected. The hybrids the Concorde has created, half human, half enhanced, they're stronger. Smarter. They'll inherit the galaxy. Not relics of a dead world clinging to vengeance. Kale spat. You sold us out. Riven shook her head slowly. No. I saved us from you. Elias stepped close, looking directly into her eyes. You think you know what survival means? You don't, she said softly. You cling to ghosts. You don't see the future. You're trying to provoke extinction twice. Elias held her gaze for a long, still moment. Then he said, Security. Take her. 2 Marines grabbed her arms. She didn't resist. As they moved her toward the brig, Riven glanced back once. When the Concorde arrives, she said, they won't offer mercy again. You did this, Commander. You lit the fire. Now burn with it. The doors sealed behind her. Kale exhaled shakily. We need a plan. Now. The fleet shook. A deep vibration rolled through the ship, low, distant, like thunder under the hull. Then the alarms howled. Sato slammed a palm onto the control panel. The display shifted to a new screen. A wall of red blips. Concorde warships emerged from hyperspace, thousands of kilometers out from Jupiter's shadow, their silhouettes stretching across the dark. Biocruisers, spine destroyers, spore carriers, all forming an encirclement. Kale whispered, It's a purge fleet. Elias stood straighter. They came faster than expected. Faster? Sato barked. They're early by hours. Elias's voice hardened. Zyrek didn't retreat. He reported us the second we struck him. He's forcing a final extermination. Kale looked at him. What do we do? Elias tapped the command table. A symbol appeared, the emergency mobilization sigil. We evacuate civilians to Europa, he said. We deploy every combat-ready ship. We hold the line long enough to scatter survivors. Kale stared in disbelief. You want to fight that? No, Elias said. I want to delay that. Sato asked. And you? Where will you be? On the Vengeance, Elias said. Leading the Counterstrike. He looked around the room. Faces stared back, fearful, angry, resolute. These are the last humans alive, Elias said. Every child. Every elder. Every voice left. If the Concorde wants us gone, they'll have to claw through every hull we've built. Kale stepped beside him. Then let's give them a wall they'll never forget. Minutes later, the Vengeance buzzed with frantic motion. Civilians rushed through evacuation corridors. Engineers ripped open panels to bypass hyperdrive sabotage. Tech crews loaded torpedoes into rail tubes until the metal groaned. Elias moved with purpose, heading toward the bridge. Halfway there, Kale caught up. They're positioning their dreadnoughts, Kale said. Charging primary weapons. Elias nodded. Good. Let them aim. Kale frowned. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. Kale exhaled, shaking his head. You always did have a strange way of seeing war. Elias stopped before the lift doors and faced him. This isn't war, Elias said. War ended when Earth died. The lift opened. This is the reckoning. He stepped inside. The bridge lights dimmed as Elias entered. Officers straightened. Status, Elias commanded. Sato replied. Enemy fleet accelerating. 2 minutes to firing range. Signal all ships, Elias said. Prepare for frontal defense formation. Launch mines. Deploy stealth wings. Keep evac routes open. Kale chimed in. And the civilians? Europa bunkers report stable shielding. They'll hold. The ship trembled again, closer now. The Concorde fleet was adjusting formation, angling weapons toward the Terran defensive line. Sato muttered. We can't win this. Elias placed a hand on the cold railing. We're not here to win, he said. We're here to make sure the galaxy remembers why humans were feared. The tactical holo displayed a small blinking point deep beneath Jupiter's clouds, a dormant superweapon, hidden for decades. Kale noticed it and froze. You're activating the Jovian cannon? Elias didn't look away from the display. The Concorde wants a final blow. Let's give them one. Kale stared at him, realization dawning. This will tear open half their fleet. That's the idea. Kale's voice softened. And us? Elias answered quietly. We're out of time. The bridge fell silent. The Concorde fleet loomed large now, monstrous silhouettes sharpening against distant starlight. Elias took a breath, steady and controlled. Open the channel, he said. To who? Sato asked. To everyone. The comm officer activated wideband broadcast. Elias stepped forward. This is Commander Elias Rourke of the Terran Resistance, he said, voice cold and clear. You hunted us. You burned our home. You called us prey. The Concorde fleet opened fire. 1,000 streaks of plasma lit up space like vengeful comets, hammering toward the Terran line. Elias Rourke watched it unfold from the Vengeance's bridge, face still, jaw locked. The Vengeance lurched as impacts rattled its shields. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Systems blinked. Still, the ship held. Shields down to 72%. Kale reported, gripping his console. Maintain formation, Elias ordered. Don't flinch. Across the fleet, battered warships stood their ground. They weren't sleek or beautiful, some barely held together with welded scrap and emergency plating, but every vessel returned fire with brutal precision. Railguns fired tungsten bolts at hypersonic speed. EMP mines detonated near spore carriers. Auto turrets shredded Concorde skirmishers like insects. In the distance, a Terran stealth corvette uncloaked and launched a volley of micro-singularity bombs. One tore a Zarn cruiser in half. The resulting debris spun wildly, clipping 2 more vessels. The Predator fleet staggered, but pressed forward. Jovian cannon primed, Sato reported. Her voice trembled slightly. Coordinates locked. Elias stepped closer to the central panel, eyes scanning the target grid. The cannon, buried deep beneath Jupiter's storms, had been a Terran contingency since the early Resistance days. Powered by a stabilized singularity core, it could punch a hole through anything. He paused. Then, quietly, fire! The bridge lights dimmed. Power rerouted. Deep below the clouds, ancient machinery awakened. For a moment, the storm-racked planet rippled. Then the beam launched. A column of blinding white energy surged from Jupiter's heart, slicing upward like a divine blade. It struck the center of the Concorde fleet, directly into the command dreadnought. There was no explosion. There was erasure. The dreadnought vanished. Its escorts fractured like glass. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield. Zarn communications erupted in chaos. Gasps echoed on the Vengeance's bridge. Kale whispered, "My God!" Elias didn't blink. Not God. Human engineering. But the fight wasn't over. The remaining Concorde ships regrouped, furious. Multiple destroyers veered toward the Vengeance, guns charged. Brace for boarding! Cale shouted. The ship rocked again, then a piercing screech sounded across the hull. In seconds, Zarn breaching pods slammed into the side of the Vengeance. Airlocks hissed. Metal groaned. Then came the sound of tearing steel. They were inside. Elias drew his sidearm and turned. Seal the bridge. Sir? Cale began. Elias didn't wait. Hold it. I'll handle them. He moved fast through the corridors, weapon ready. The red emergency lights cast long shadows across the deck. Screams echoed in the distance. Gunfire. Explosions. He reached deck 12 just as the inner hull breached. From the smoke stepped Zyrek. Clawed feet. Bleeding armor. One eye burned red-hot, the other gone. His once regal armor was cracked, trailing black fluid. He looked furious, and alive. You should have died on Earth, Zyrek growled. Elias aimed without hesitation and fired. The bolt hit Zyrek in the shoulder, spinning him back, but not down. The Admiral roared and charged. Claws slashed. Elias ducked, rolled, and came up with a knife in hand. He drove it deep into Zyrek's side. The alien bellowed in rage, backhanded him, and sent him crashing into a wall. Elias coughed blood, ribs cracking. He got up anyway. Zyrek staggered. You call yourselves evolved? You're still weak. Still prey. Elias didn't reply. He hit the override panel on the wall. The corridor's magnetic locks disengaged. A large steel beam, part of the ship's retraction system, slammed down onto Zyrek's back, pinning him. The Admiral roared, trying to lift it, but his injuries slowed him. Elias stepped forward, limping. You hunted us. You burned our home. You feasted on our bones, he said. Now choke on what's left. He drew a small device from his belt, a shaped gravity bomb. Zyrek's eye widened. Elias activated it and dropped it at the alien's feet. A deep hum began to build. Zyrek screamed, but couldn't move. Elias turned and limped away. The blast behind him didn't echo. It folded. When he emerged onto the upper deck, bloodied and burned, Cale was waiting. You're bleeding, Cale said. So is he, Elias replied, leaning against the wall. Broadcast ready? Cale nodded. All channels open. You're live. Elias stood before the main console, bruised and steady. The crew went silent. Galactic Concorde, he began, voice rough but clear. You called us vermin. You erased our cities. You shattered our world. The camera captured his face, scarred, grim, unbroken. We survived your purge. We rebuilt in your shadows. And today, we tore open your throat. He leaned forward. We are not prey. We are the fire you thought you stamped out. We are the species that learned to fight with nothing. His voice rose. You hunted us. Now we hunt back. He tapped the console. Behind him, footage played, Zarn's ships burning, Concorde dreadnoughts splitting apart, the bloodthirster screaming as it bled. Remember Earth, he said. Because it remembers you. He ended the feed. Later, the Vengeance drifted in silence. The enemy fleet was broken. Some ships fled. Others floated crippled. Terran vessels regrouped, scarred but intact. Escaped transports had made it to Europa. The civilians were alive. Elias stood once more on the observation deck. Jupiter loomed behind him, red furious, hiding the weapon they'd unleashed. Cale joined him, eyes tired. They'll come again. Yes, Elias said. But not today. Elias nodded slowly. Today, he said, we reminded the galaxy who we are. Cale gave a faint smile. What now? We vanish. Regroup. Rebuild. They'll call us terrorists. Monsters. Doesn't matter. We'll be ready. For what? Elias turned. For the real war.